You want me to put that on my Tudor?
This one's wife. I needed therapy after her. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You may be aware that Vanity Fair has just published a detailed, some 8,000 words, article about this one's wife and Harry. It's taken from a variety of sources after they spoke to a lot of different people, some named, some not. And I'm breaking that down in a separate video rather than going through the entirety of the article, as that would take too long. But one of the aspects that stood out for me related to the working relationship that took place concerning the Spotify contract that this one's wife and Harry once had with Spotify. The Vanity Fair article explains information that comes from a source and is talking about the working relationships that took place. The article states as follows. The source, who worked in media projects, says this one's wife's own relationships with employees tended to follow a familiar pattern. She would be warm and effusive at the beginning, engendering an atmosphere of professional camaraderie. When something went poorly, often due to this one's wife and Harry's own demands, such as a teaser for Archetypes being released 5 months before the show premiered and before there was any tape to promote, this one's wife would become cold and withholding toward the person she perceived to be responsible. This, of course, pausing there, is no surprise whatsoever. This one's wife's approach to dealing with people is essentially to seduce them. I don't mean that she does so in an intimate sexual way with everybody, but you do know that she's flirtatious because her narcissism tells her that every man wants to knock her hip out and every woman wants to be her. But in essence, true to the fact that she's a narcissist, most of the time, the narcissism causes her to approach people from the off in a way to be warm to them, to flatter them, to be flirtatious with them, to draw them in. It isn't genuine. It is a device that is part of narcissism, which is used to draw that person in to bring them under control. Therefore, it's no surprise to find that at first she engaged in essentially what was this idealization of the people that she was dealing with. Then, surprise, surprise, when something goes wrong, i.e. threatens her innate need for control, they become painted black and she's cold to them. The exhibition of cold, ignited fury. This is entirely commensurate with the behaviour of a narcissist. I'll be nice towards you at first, not because it's genuine, but because I'm being that way to control you. But the moment that you threaten my need for control, I forget about all the good that you've done. You are now Satan. You are painted black, and thus you now receive a malign manipulation. Classic behaviour of a narcissist. The article continued by explaining, the source says it was really, really, really awful, very painful. Because she's constantly playing checkers, I think they mean repeatedly. I'm not even going to say chess, which is quite entertaining, that they say she's playing checkers but not chess, which demonstrates that basically she operates in a simple fashion. She isn't this Machiavellian mastermind that some people think that she is. She's just very aware of where everybody is on her board. That is the manifestation of the necessity of control. The source continues by stating, and when you are not in, you are to be thrown to the wolves at any given moment. Quite entertaining that the reference is being made to thrown to the wolves because, naturally, this one's wife, she referenced that she had been thrown to the wolves in relation to the media. The article continues by explaining, in practice they say that manifested as undermining, which of course is a classic narcissist maneuver. It's talking behind your back. It's gnawing at your sense of self, really like Mean Girl's teenager. Many times this one's wife has had her behaviour described as that of a mean girl, when in actual fact, of course, it's her narcissism. Nevertheless, another individual had a different experience with her and said she's just a lovely, genuine person. That person evidently didn't threaten her need for control to result in her receiving any form of devaluing behaviour, and therefore erroneously reached the conclusion that she's lovely and genuine. This one's wife is neither, because she's a narcissist. She simply creates the manifestation of being lovely. The person who worked in media projects, the article continues, read stories in the tabloids about this one's wife bullying palace aides and could not imagine such behaviour actually happened. After working with her, though, this person realised, oh, any given Tuesday, this happened. Accordingly, there's someone who had their mind changed by experiencing the actual behaviour that this one's wife metes out, which we know that she does as a consequence of people's testimony and the fact that she is a narcissist. The article continues by stating, while it beggars belief that this one's wife actually shouted at a palace aide, as has been reported, a person who interacted with her professionally says, you can be yelled at even if someone doesn't raise their voice. It's funny that people don't differentiate between the energy of being yelled at and literally someone screaming at you. This hints again at the cold ignited fury that this one's wife will exhibit as a mid-range narcissist, whereby she will say something horrible to somebody, devaluing them without necessarily raising her voice, or she'll cold shoulder someone, or glare at them, giving them the death stare. The article adds, two sources say a colleague with ties to archetypes took a leave of absence after working on 3 episodes, then left Gimlet altogether. Gimlet was Spotify's own production company that was brought in because Archwell was being too slow to produce the episodes. Several others described taking extended breaks from work to escape scrutiny, exiting their job, or undergoing long-term therapy after working with this one's wife. So there you have it. Individuals that worked with her, which puts paid, of course, to the sugar scream of, you don't know her. These people did know her. They worked with her. And it resulted in them taking extended breaks from work to escape scrutiny, in essence, hiding away from her, exiting their job to no longer have anything to do with her, and undergoing long-term therapy as a consequence of working with her. Imagine that. The supposed kind-hearted, empathic philanthropist and charitable saint that walks this earth, dispensing goodness like lightning from her fingertips, sends people to therapy. Those of you who've been ensnared with the narcissist will know the impact that the narcissist has upon you, and indeed there are plenty of people who've entered therapy as a consequence of their ensnarement. It's no surprise that individuals have found themselves placed in this position not after a romantic entanglement with this one's wife, but a professional work one. The person who interacted professionally with her says, I think if this one's wife acknowledged her own shortcomings or personal contributions to situations, rather than staying trapped in a victim narrative, her perception might be better. Once again, that is demonstrative of the nature of this one's wife, that she has shortcomings, that she makes contributions which are unhelpful, that she stays in a victim narrative, but demonstrates the naivety of this person to think that she is capable of acknowledging her own shortcomings and personal contributions. She isn't. As a narcissist, she can't see them because her narcissism blinds her to it. Accordingly, this is just a short piece of the Vanity Fair article, but it stands out considerably because it demonstrates once again how this one's wife is a very difficult person to work with, that the bullying accusations that she faced in the United Kingdom, Australia, and had been unearthed from the Hollywood Reporter more recently, all stand up alongside further testimony from people that Vanity Fair have spoken to. It demonstrates that she's so unpleasant to work with that it causes people to take absence from work, that they leave the job, and in some instances have to go to therapy to deal with the consequences of working with this one's wife. Seen in isolation, these are certainly disclosures which are no surprise to many people, but also rather damning coming from an organ such as Vanity Fair to demonstrate that this is how people see this one's wife. Naturally, this affects her facade and is a threat to her control, and it is an interesting revelation that is provided here. I'm going to look at further aspects of the Vanity Fair interview, but this was one aspect that merited specific examination on its own. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.